Baba Ram Dass is one of my spiritual teachers. We spent many hours together on the air and off. After he returned from India, he crisscrossed the country speaking about the mystical experience. I have included a few of our interviews on the website, but encourage you to go online and visit his site, where dozens of tapes and books are available. Among my media interactions over the years, Ram Dass remains one of my favorite people. The one teaching that has stayed with me the longest is his pronouncement that nothing is ever learned, only remembered. Well, over the years, he has helped me remember.
It is a joy having you with us. Just an absolute joy. A lot of people, young and old alike, who come to listen to you at your many lectures or gatherings, as I have, are in search of the way, the key. Many feel that you have harnessed that, or that you are closer to arriving at that plane of being than most people are. Do you?
That's one of those questions, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You understand that? It's like, when did you stop beating your mother? Because the first person who isn't enlightened is the one who says, I'm enlightened, usually. It's a strange process, the awakening or unfolding, because you go through so many trips about it, about who you are and how it's going and where you're at and how it all comes out. And they're all just illusions you meet along the way. They're just like every definition you have of yourself has to go. And finally, you end up not really caring who you are or how it all comes out, which is very far out. And you just get to the point where you're just doing what you're doing. And what keeps blowing my mind is that everywhere, like 2 years ago, I'd speak, go out and do these darshans on the West Coast, the East Coast, or Canada somewhere, and we'd all be at a certain place. And then a year later, I say the farthest out things that have happened to me, and everybody's sitting here saying, yeah, sure, man, here we are. And I dig finally that it's like a psychic process. It's a psychic space we're all moving in. It's all happening to us. It's like a ship in the night. I mean, we're all being transformed. That awakening process, all of us, in this us reference group, it means those that are involved in this kind of search for consciousness that you're referring to. Mm-hmm. And we're all going sort of at the same rate. And some person looks like he's going backwards. He's getting hung up in speed, or he's getting caught in some melodrama of his life, and somebody else looks like they're getting holier than everybody else. But that's only sort of little places along the path, which, if you don't have the perspective, look real. From if you stand back just a little, you see we're all moving at sort of exactly the same rate. And you're just meeting along the way, and here we are, and we're just going through, this opening, but we're each following our own metaphor. And so within each of our metaphors, we look at another guy, See, I dig, like in San Francisco, the highest darshan that I had, I realized it was making it, because at the end of it, instead of everybody coming up to worship me, which is a heavy trip, I'll tell you, they all look at each other and see God. It's like I'm just another cat then, and then I know it's happened, because the whole thing is, it's in all of us. And the nice part about the journey we're all on is it's not a hero figure trip. It's a kind of a leaderless group process. We have these guides, many from the East, and now, we're slowly becoming West. Everybody that's on the journey at this moment, that when you talk about this stuff, they're saying, yeah, right, I can hear it from inside. Mm-hmm. Everybody is like, these are all the teachers, really. Because this is like the beginning sort of tiny edge of a wave in front of the wave. This is all so preliminary. You can just feel the thing picking up. I mean, because consciousness, So we're not dealing with any form. See, when we think of Woodstock like as huge numbers, you know,
Right.
like it's a big deal because there's
Right.
300,000 or something like that. And here we all are. You here, I'm here. Wow, here we all are. And it really is. It's an extraordinary human statement. It's a really great being, a very pure statement of isness. But at the same moment, it's all so trivial compared to the size of the wave. It's like I was telling Krishna, who's here with me from the Integral Yoga Institute, that on the way over, that sometimes I feel when I'm speaking like I'm surfing on a wave that's so high that when I look down I get vertigo. You know that you ever get? It's like one of those waves that wipes out the islands. You know, a tidal wave. I guess you suddenly realize you're surfing on a tidal wave, and it really blows your mind because the whole part of me that was seeing my own trip as separate from anybody else's fell away. And I dig that why everybody can hear me is because I am everybody. I mean, I'm just talking out of our place. When I get to do a darshan, I just empty my head, and then whoever's around comes in, and then we are. You see, because I realize I got nothing to lay on anybody really, because there's no proselytizing possible. You can't take anybody on your trip. You know, I can't sell it. I can't sell anything. You know, I can't sit up in a garage. You know, no matter how groovy it is and how low the overhead, I can't. There's no trip I can lay on people.
For those who are listening right now, who are seeking so desperately a way out or a way in, how does one begin? What are the preliminaries? What do you have to do? How do you start that journey? How do you arrive to where someone like yourself is at?
Well, to work with your words a little bit, the first thing you start to do is dig the humor of your own predicament of being on a desperate search. Because that's, of course, just another place. It's just another set of thought forms. I mean, everybody that's on a journey, the first thing to realize is you're already here. Because when you get to the end of the journey, you realize you were here all along. And it's now it's not very much use to know you're already here when you don't know you're already here. Okay,
Right.
You see the problem. So that a Zen Buddhist says you're already here, you know, or a Vedanta says like there's nothing to do, you've already done it. But you don't know that. You intellectually might say, yeah, that's right, but in your heart you don't know it. So the game is to get rid of all the thought forms that keep you from being here, that are what are called bringing you down. You know. They're only thought forms in your head, and they're usually connected with past or future, because that's the way that all your thoughts are in time, and those are what keep you bound in a certain stuck place where you're searching or suffering or it's not enough or that feeling. You know? And so it's just like very mechanical. It's very kind of a mundane type of activity to just keep emptying your mind, to just keep not stopping your thoughts. You can't do that because that's like stopping water, you know, a huge water. You can't stop it. But you can break your attachment to your own thoughts until your thoughts go by like rivers, and here we are. And that place, see, everybody is exactly one thought away from where we all are, right? That's as far away as you are, just one thought, the thought you're having right now. See? And the minute you could have that thought without saying it's my thought, or without thinking you're thinking it, here we are. The minute I say here we are, we're in a thought. See? So it's between the and the right, that we are. And what happens is that a lot of people are through poetry or television or rock or dope or sex or succeeding in life or something, wake up. They suddenly realize that whatever trip they were on is just another trip. And that waking up, the first waking up is the trip I've been on for all these years is another trip, and then the next waking up is all trips are just another trip, see? And then you're aimed towards the place which gets scary, which is where you finish tripping. See? You finish all trips, all possibilities of all trips. Everything, whether it's career, eating, making love, everything, it's another trip. It doesn't mean you stop doing it. It means you stop being attached to thinking that that's the thing that's going to do it.
When you no longer cling to that illusion, as I obviously still am by making reference to it, I take it, but when you no longer cling to that illusion of where you are at or where you're not at, then where are you? I mean, upon reflection, upon looking back now, where do you arrive? What is the next Bardot after you have no longer been
After
clinging?
Bridget.
Especially her. What comes next?
Well, it's very, see, the coming back in is really interesting. A friend of mine was with Suzuki Roshi, who is the head of the Tassajara. He's a Zen monk from north. And he said, in describing him, he said, you know what he's like? He's like a talking rock. That when he's talking to you, and when he's not, he's like a rock. He's just sitting there like a rock. And when he's walking, he's just walking. And when he's eating, he's just eating. And when he's joyful, he's just joyful. And when he's angry, he's just angry. Now you'd say, well, I had that all the time. But you didn't, because what you had all the time was anger with an overlay of thought about being angry. See? And he doesn't have any of that. It's just all right here. It's just like water doesn't think, I'll flow downstream today. See? It's just doing its thing. And that kind of mindless doing its thing, but in total harmony. It's not mindless. Wow, this is delicate. There's a place where you say how mindless of him, meaning he was thinking about something else when he should have been thinking about the thing, you know. You bumped into me, how mindless of you. That isn't true mindless, it's just thinking about something else.
I see.
That's exactly what morphine or heroin does. You see, it takes you out of the here and now into a place, which is a place. It's a very place. I mean, it's enough at the moment, except you always come down from it. Right? And it is just another place, so you are not mindless in the true sense. You're just in another place in your mind. So you're still mindful, but at another place. And so when a person's cooked or done, they're always just here, and they're always totally empty. And then they are, in a way, just an extraordinary medium of the vibrations of the universe passing through them. There's nobody home. When you meet a really high being, you realize there's nobody there at all. You know, you can go up and you can love him and he smiles at you, you know, and you prick him and he hurts, but there's nobody there. There's nobody, like, he might come and beat you over the head, and you're so used to thinking of real people being in there, you project into him, he must be angry with me, so he picked up the stick and beat me. But in fact, he's beating you because that's what you need to have done to you at that moment. It has nothing to do with his deciding to do it. There's nobody in there deciding. There's nobody up on the bridge staring. You see? There's no... That whole ego level just went. It's gone. All the things we thought we needed. See, that's the mind blower. When the thing you... Like all of the books in psychology, like all of Erik Erikson's trip, and all these guys who are talking about ego identity, get your identity straight with your ego. Man, that turns out to be the biggest shuck of all, you know, which is rather heretical, I guess, to say to a college audience, you know. But, you know, Freud took us on the second chakra trip, Adler on the third, Jung on the fourth. And each one lays it out the way he sees it from the place he's stuck, all right? That's all we can do. That's all we ever see. We only see our own desires in the universe.
Each one sees it from the place they're stuck.
Yeah, they just see the projections of their own attachments. Yeah.
My guest is Baba Ram Dass, and we'll be back with more in a moment.
Because in the game of polarities, the poles just keep getting more and more apart. The paranoia gets higher, and the goal which every human being has, which is to be at home in love, where it feels really good, everybody gets further and further removed. And so you've got to look very carefully at whether your method of getting rid of the devil isn't making an alliance with the devil, see, in a new and more subtle form. And in a way, the whole trip of polarities is not conscious enough. It doesn't mean, however, that you don't protest against impurities in a social system. The question is how conscious you are when you protest. And it boils down to this. I mean, I can make the statement as bodily as this. When you can love the being you are protesting against as much as yourself, then you can protest in a conscious way. Because what it's saying is, just like we were talking about making love, it's exactly the same situation. When we can meet, it's like two English tennis players. See, and they meet, and they're in the middle of the set point of the big match, and it's a fierce match, fierce being an English word, and they look at each other and they say, jolly good day, isn't it? You know, and at some moment, they've jumped levels, they've gone behind the way in which they're competitors in order to meet at a place. It's like, I was in Washington a number of years ago, and at that time I was kind of a heavy pusher in acid, and I was sort of connected with the underground in one way or another. And I met with one of the heads of the Food and Drug Administration. We just happened to meet in a hotel lobby. And I knew he had a big dossier on me, and he knew I had a big dossier on him, and we sat on this couch in the lobby, and we really liked each other, see? And we were in this... And at the end, he said, Richard, I just hope you don't do anything illegal. Because you're a really nice guy, and I'd hate to have to bust you. And I realized that we had met at a place behind our game.
I see.
Now, the thing is that a lot of our protests can do exactly what they want to do, which is to protest against the hurt in all of us, the feeling of frustration, the feeling of agony at seeing our own horror, at seeing what man's mind can create in the way of paranoia and in the way of destruction of the environment. Now, to come at it from a slightly different angle, take our ecological concerns. See, that what's exquisite about that, a lot of people say, well, that's a ploy to get us away from the real issues, see. But in fact, that's a reflection of the fact that we are moving to a higher level of consciousness. Because the predicament is that Florence Kluckhohn, the Harvard anthropologist, used to differentiate societies into man over nature, man in nature, and man under nature. And you could take all societies and see whether they were primarily oriented. Like ours is primarily a man over nature. It's the rational mind. We can control our environment and ergo our destinies. But it becomes apparent that there are so many variables you just can't control them, no matter how exquisite your computer or anything. Because you can see how the government just can't handle the complexity of the scene that is what a modern technological society is all about. Okay? So what happens is, as man begins to be aware of the finiteness of his own rational mind, that he can only push a linear computer just so far, see, he starts to flip into another place. And he flips into a place, let's see how to describe it. He flips out of using the rational mind into another space where he intuits, or he lives in, I gotta move slowly through here now. He is forced into the next level of consciousness, which you can equate to the chakras or the energy centers, and say that he moved from man over nature to man in nature, or a harmonious relation to the forces around him, seeing himself as merely part of nature, as I was talking about before.
I see.
And once he does that, then the whole ecological trip makes perfect sense to him. So he's got to honor nature. He's part of it. Then he's living by the book of Tao, the Tao Te Ching. And that is the same thing as moving from the third to the fourth chakra, moving into the heart chakra, which is compassion, Buddhist compassion. Because the compassionate activist is somebody who is aware of the predicament we're all in, and he doesn't get into the black hats and the white hats, there are the good guys and the bad guys. He realizes that we are all human beings really trying to make it, except that each of us is caught in his particular way of doing it, and we're killing each other over our ways of doing it. Even though we all share the goal. And once you move to the next level and you're aware of the shared goal, when we meet, we meet with the goodwill, that we honor the fact that we all have a goal, which is to come to the light, to come into love, because no matter how much a guy is an egomaniac, he's still doing all that even, just in order to come to a certain feeling inside of himself. And when we honor that feeling, we find we're all in the stew together. And that we are Richard Nixon, and we are J. Edgar Hoover, and we are Tim, and we are, Angela Davis. A conscious person is beyond the law. Which means, and that is true, you are beyond good and evil, but by the same token, you are in a place where you can only perform good. Because you understand good meaning that which brings man out of the illusion into the next plane of consciousness, into unity. Bad being that which increases paranoia or illusion. So if I kill, steal, exploit, lust after, see, it's like the whole Ten Commandments are right hanging by. There they all are. But you don't do them because somebody said, you follow the Ten Commandments. You do them because there's nothing else to do, because if I screw you so you get more paranoid at me, we both lose. See? And once you realize that, you can't perform an act which increases paranoia. And that's why a lot of the revolution is so unconscious. And the revolution is being fed by this fantastic amount of energy that is created by the fact that we are moving into another psychic space, which is the psychic space of the immediate present, the eternal present, the here and now. Television, transportation, technology, drugs, everything took us McLuhan-esque way, into the here and now. The here and now is another energy place where there's a fantastic amount more energy available to every human being in the system. Now the question is, do we run that new energy through the old models of Get Daddy? See, because I meet a lot of the revolutionaries, and man, I don't want to work under them, because when they become Big Daddy, man, they're going to be as bad as the last Big Daddy.
Sure.
And a lot of the kids are beginning to dig that, you see, that they're not selling one system for a higher consciousness. It's an old, that revolution and evolution are two different things. That you can have a revolution that is quite conscious and part of evolution, or you can have a revolution which is just the opposite, And what I dig now is that depending on how the revolutionary got into the revolution, he's either getting finished with it and realizing now we're all on this planet and it's just one round ball and here we all are, so we might as well get on with it, man, because if we're going to sit around beating each other up, nobody wins. Nobody possibly wins. And I'm delighted because as I drift around the country, drift around the Western world, everywhere I go, there's this fantastic amount of consciousness emerging that is looking for new models that are much more conscious models than the models we've been having. And I dig that when I see a mob movement like in Harvard Square in Cambridge or something like that, I see that it's a very few people that are creating models that everybody else with this fantastic amount of energy and feeling of frustration jumps into. And the minute other models are available for how to use energy, it's like you take a society that's used to a 40-hour work week and you cut them down to a 30-hour work week. What do they do with the extra 10 hours? They do leisure time things harder and harder, you see, until you give guaranteed annual wage, until nobody's got anything to do. And yet we're still running supposedly under the Protestant ethic where you got to work to be good, but there's no work to do, see. And then you get into this funny breakdown where nobody's working and then you're evil, see. And it's very delicate to redefine the nature of man's life experience. So all we have to do is be here and it's enough. See, that's what be-ins were about. You, man, be in. Be here, a human being. See? And let's just be here together. And more and more I suspect, well, I won't say, what I feel is that the two forces, the force towards the Nivriti and the Prakriti, the force towards fragmentation and towards paranoia and towards separateness increases in a geometrical rate. At the same time, the force towards unity, which is called the spiritual liberation front, or the force towards light, goes at that rate. And they both go at exactly the same rate, which is very far out, you see. And in the Hindu system, there is a point where Shiva's been sitting in meditation on the top of Mount Kailash, or wherever he's, one of the 4 mountains he sits on, and he's really just stoned out in highest samadhi, you see, and then after after all of the yugas that make up one kalpa, which is a time so long that it boggles the mind, he yawns, comes out, and gets up and dances, and that's called the pralaya, and it's when it all ends, you see. And I get to the point where I see that the flash of the hydrogen bomb and the white light of enlightenment get awful close together to me, you see, because a realized being says, one to me is loss and gain, one to me is fame and shame, one to me is pleasure and pain, one to me is life and death. Okay? You get very far out where you begin to see that these forces come together at a certain point. It's really scary because where they come together you can't conceive of how it is because it's beyond form. Okay? And whether we're going to do it in the horrible trip or the beautiful trip, we're going to get there anyway. You see, that's what's really far out.
You just exude such a warm, positive energy. I receive it from the tapes when I used to listen to you. I receive it from your writings. And I mean, it's just overpowering. It's
not me. And that's the beautiful thing, that everybody's ready now for a truly straight message. And if a revolutionary can make his message straight enough and pure enough and honest enough so there's no shuck and there's no power play and there's no ego play, everybody will hear it. And if it isn't, if there's one false note, everybody knows. So there's nothing we can do but work on ourselves. I love you all.
Good night.